Welcome back to the Redraft Show, brought to you by FFD Fantasy. Now, I am here today to set the tone for Week 5, to give you the must-adds for Week 5, the most crucial decisions on your waiver wire. So, we're up in the foolishness this week because we got 4 teams on bye. We got the Packers, the Bears, the Steelers, and the Falcons on bye this week. So if you're looking for replacements for Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, DK Metcalf, Jalen Warren, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs, or most importantly, Kyle Pitts, I got you. If you're looking for a replacement for Chase Brown, get a time machine or something. But let's get into it. So if you're looking for a replacement for Caleb Williams or Jordan Love, who have both been on absolute heaters, less so Caleb Williams. But anyway, you could first turn to CJ Stroud. Now, check your waiver wires because CJ Stroud is 59% rostered, but Baltimore has currently allowed the second most touchdown passes in the NFL this season to opposing signal callers. And we just found out that they're going to be without Nnamdi Madubuike, their all-pro defensive lineman, for the year. So this is a defense that is absolutely reeling. They've allowed 37 points in 3 or 4 matchups. So at least 37 rather. So I can't in good conscience tell you to leave CJ Stroud on the waiver wire. I know he doesn't technically qualify because he's over 50% rostered, and we try to bring you people that are under 50% rostered, but it's worth a look because in one of the redraft leagues I'm in, he was on the waiver wire. So again, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, if you got those guys and they've been rocking for you, this could be a suitable replacement against a pass funnel defense in Baltimore. Well, Baltimore's just a bad defense altogether, so it really doesn't matter. Moving on, we've got Sam Darnold. He's currently 28% roster. He gets the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, they've allowed back-to-back 2-score outings from opposing signal callers, and Sam Darnold has looked the part. I mean, it looks like whatever voodoo Kevin O'Connell did to him, that made him be absolutely, bulletproof, I guess. He's playing good quarterback now. But just imagine. Never mind. We don't even have to. Sam Darnold, 28% rostered. He's going this is a perfect bye week fill in if you need it. This is not a degree of difficulty matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a great passing matchup, not so much from a rushing perspective, but I mean, these are your options. So moving on, we got Geno Smith, 40% roster. Now he did we saw him throw 3 picks, in front of everybody. It was not great, but this Indianapolis pass defense has allowed at least 3 scores in 2 of their last 3 games, the one exception being against the Titans, but we don't have to talk about that. We're going to move on to the running back position now. So if you needed a replacement for Josh Jacobs or Bijan Robinson, hopefully you tuned into this show last week and then you were able to grab Woody Marks, who was 19% rostered last week. Now he's up to a whopping 38% rostered, and he's taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we just talked about CJ Stroud. We're going to talk about Woody Marks. So he played a career high 56% of the snaps. He had 17 carries, 69 yards, another 4 receptions, and he had 5 targets. So we're talking about Woody Marks here, who has a pass catching profile, who just has Nick Chubb to compete with for touches. And we saw him handle the majority of the workload in the backfield and look good doing so. So Woody Marks is a must add. We're only 37% rostered. I mean, this is definitely signal, not noise. We saw the same thing happen last year or 2 years ago in CJ Stroud's rookie year between Damian Pierce and Devin Singletary. So Woody Marks could very well be this year's Devin Singletary of 2023, last year in the past, future, present. Anyway, Woody Marks is the number one must-add priority. If you take nothing else away from this episode, I told you last week, I'm telling you again, this is your chance to get Woody Marks on your team. So we're going to move on to another priority ad. Now, this one came out of nowhere because, I assumed that Rachaad White was rostered on most people's rosters, but we get the news that Bucky Irving's getting an MRI done. Rachaad White's handled double-digit touches in 2 of 4 games this year. And if something is to happen to Bucky Irving, Rachaad White was the RB4 overall back in 2023 when he was handling the majority of the workload. So this is you have to add Rachaad White. If Rachaad White's rostered, You then could probably wait for waivers to clear, and then you could add Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker currently only about 8%, less than 8% rostered. I had him on. Never mind. Just add Sean Tucker. We don't have to go into where the roster percentages are, but he's probably available in most of your redraft leagues. All right, now for some deep bench stashes at the running back position, we're going to talk about Zavier Scott. Now, Zavier Scott, 26-year-old running back, been waived quite a few times, but running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, Aaron Jones is still on IR. So this is not, again, this is a post-waiver stash. So you don't have to spend any fab on this guy. But he played 38% of the snaps, and he's only 2.8% rostered currently. So you could just kind of take a wait-and-see approach. Now, another guy, if you saw me over on the FF Dynasty at any point in time or watched any content about rookies that I've talked about ever, I spoke about a guy named Brashard Smith. So if you haven't seen any of that, now's your time to get familiar with Brashard Smith, because one thing that Andy Reid does love is throw the ball to his running backs. And Brashard Smith is a former collegiate wide receiver who converted to running back, rushed for over 1,300 yards. He was a seventh-round pick of the Chiefs this year. And as a rookie, now we have offensive coordinator Matt Nagy coming in and saying that, hey, we've got to find a way to get this guy more involved. And part of that could be because Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco just don't have it. And Brashard Smith had it. Now, he had a career-high 3 receptions and 27 yards this past week. But if his role is going to grow, you remember how valuable Jerick McKinnon was during the championship weeks of yesteryear. So don't say I didn't tell you, because I've been telling you for a long time.
What's good? You know the phrase, the house always wins? Well, not anymore with our new sponsor, ProfitX. ProfitX, America's #1 sports prediction market, is a peer-to-peer sports prediction market where users play against each other instead of a sports book versus the house. You almost always get the best price in any spread, money line, total, and player prop, since you're playing against other people rather than the book. You know, it looks just like a sports book, but with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go download the app and use promo code FFD to claim up to $200 in profit cash on all the plays you use in the first 30 days of playing on site. Link in the description. Now, let's get down to business. It's Monday. Don't have a whole lot of options on props and that, which is more along the lines of what I like to play. But the Thursday night game is San Fran at the Rams. Early indication, Purdy doesn't play. It's McCorkle Jones. Looks like Pearsall might be out. Looks like Jennings might be out. Defensive line already lost Bosa. We've got the LA Rams -5.5 at home on a short week. I like the Rams here. Hurts my heart to say the Niners have had, kind of been the Rams' daddy for the 10-year between McVay and Shanny, but recently McVay's gotten the best of him, and I think he gets it again. So LA Rams -5.5. Use promo code FFD. What are you waiting for? Download ProfitX. Why haven't you done it? Do it.
Now, let's move on to the wide receiver position. Now, there's some less obvious ads. I think you've got to decide what you want to do. You got to decide what you want to do. Choose your own adventure with the Cowboys wide receiver room. Obviously, George Pickens is not going to be available anywhere, but that does leave some room for guys like Ryan Flournoy, who's currently 0% rostered. Jalen Tolbert, 16% rostered. And Kevontae Turpin, I believe, is still about 24% rostered. So they're taking on the New York Jets. They allow a lot of man coverage. The Jets do, and they allow one of the highest fantasy points per dropback. So I expect whoever this number 2 receiver is, although the previous 2 times, quick anecdote. Actually, I'm going to save that. So if you want to know what that anecdote was about George Pickens' career against the Jets, please tune into the wide receiver ranking show this week. But we're going to move on. Alec Pierce is currently only 9% rostered. He's coming off back-to-back four catch, 68-yard games. One game he might have had 67 yards. But anyway, he's coming off 4 catch, 67-yard performances. He was concussed against the Tennessee Titans, forcing him to miss week 4. Adonai Mitchell steps in, has 3 catches for 96 yards and fumbles away a touchdown, I believe it was. But that's Alec Pierce's job. So in his absence, Adonai Mitchell played 90% of the snaps and went 3 for 96 or whatever it was, and fumbled away the touchdown. But Alec Pierce should be back this week. If he is back, you want to get him. You want to get him into your, onto your roster as an end of bench stash, because he's going to have these boom weeks. If you're missing, if you're missing your Drake Londons, your Romeo Doubs which Romeo Doubs is another guy that we probably should discuss at this point, but we'll get to that here shortly. Let's actually get into Romeo Doubs' rostership percentage. So I was surprised when I found out that Romeo Doubs is only 45% roster. Now you are going to have to deal with some delayed gratification. So this is only a move that I would recommend making if you were in that range of like, hey, I need some points I could stash, and I could stash them and just see what happens. Honestly, this is like the prime trade candidate because this is the Romeo Doubs will do this for you every now and then. And I don't think they're ever going to give him the featured role he deserves. So he's currently 45% roster. Check your waiver wires just to make sure, because this is delayed gratification, but he does come off by to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we love that. I mean, that couldn't be sweeter. I mean, honestly, you might put your feet at risk if it was any sweeter coming back off bye week. So let's move on to another wide receiver stash. So again, if you're trying to overcome the loss of Drake London or Rome Odunze, one of those guys, here's what we got. So we've got Isaiah Bond. Now, we have an injury to Cedric Tillman, who, as a brand, we love Cedric Tillman, but it hasn't been great. So we get a guy named Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond's a rookie out of the University of Texas who famously said that he was going to break Xavier Worthy's record for the Combine 40 and ended up running a 4.40 or a 4.39, which, underwhelmed a lot of people. Then he had some off-the-field issues. Goes as an undrafted free agent, but he gets a fully guaranteed deal once he's exonerated of those charges from the law, and the Cleveland Browns give him a fully guaranteed deal. So now he's a part of this offense, and him being a part of this offense, Joe Flacco being second in pass attempts, this is a play that I would make, and this is more of a long-term play. He was widely regarded as a day 2 pick, and those things that I alluded to probably had more to do with him being undrafted than not. So if Cedric Tillman's set to miss multiple weeks, which I believe he is with the hamstring injury, then Isaiah Bond is a guy that you definitely want to roster just because it's going to pay some dividends. He was 3 for 58 last week, on 55% of the snaps. So that's a deep, deep stash that you could probably wait until waivers are over. It really depends on your league. This is kind of I might throw like $1 or $2 at it just to make sure somebody's not just trying to sneak him through on you and not wait until waivers go through. So that's the way that I would play that. But if you're missing King Kyle Pitts, if you're missing Tucker Kraft, I've got a few streamers that might be of interest to you. And I'm just going to rattle those off real quick. You've got Theo Johnson there. He's only 5% rostered, and they're taking on the New Orleans Saints this week. Theo Johnson did score a passing touchdown on the shovel pass from Jackson Dart this past week, and he's a monster. He's 6'6". He's 265 pounds. He's a RAS freak, a relative athletic score for those of you who don't know. So Theo Johnson is one of the tight ends that you can stash and stream if you need to. The number one streamer is going to be Brenton Strange, though. Brenton Strange is 33% rostered. He gets the Kansas City Chiefs, which isn't my favorite draw, but it's been pretty consistent. I believe he's had at least 4 targets in every single game this year. And now he's coming off of one of his best games of the season. So Brenton Strange, if you needed help at the position, you could definitely do worse than a fill-in with Brenton Strange, only 33% rostered. And then Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble is going to be the hot ad of the week. He's 0% rostered, but you've got Jatavian Sanders with, an ankle injury. And I wanted to slow play this and see how it played out because, there's not a such thing as a tight end handcuff. Those are only things that we can't speak about due to FCC regulations. So anyway, Tommy Tremble is coming in and he's going to play a significant role. He had 15 PPR fantasy points this week. And I think that's going to be something that's significant and continues if the Panthers are going to be in negative game scripts consistently. Again, they're one of the highest attempts in the second half, the entire pass attempts in the NFL in the second half. So if that's going to happen, Tommy Tremble is going to get targeted. It can't all go to Teteroa McMillan, the big pineapple. Somebody's got to do it. So, and last but not least, you've got Jake Tonges, currently only 5% rostered, but he's been a fairly consistent presence since George Kittle went down in the first quarter of the week 1, and he doesn't come back until at least week 6. So Jake Tonges is another name that you could definitely get your eyes on and be, like you're not going to have to spend anything on this guy. And you're probably just looking for a fill-in or you're looking for a replacement, because you've got one of those tight ends, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, Tucker Kraft, Kyle Pitts, all those guys are on bye this week. So you definitely want to take into consideration that you could go grab some of these guys post waivers and have them just so that you're not out of luck once they do get, once the game starts. So if you made it this far, man, thank you so much. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Check out the ranking shows, wide receiver and running back. Those will be out. Your must starts, my 5 pleasure chest champions and Lost Boys. We did pretty well with those last week, so that's something that we'll continue doing. If you can, join the page. We've got a free Patreon. You can join for a $5 or a $10 holler. Until next time, listen, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly.